I was 7 years old the first time I heard my mother call me a mistake. She didn't know I was standing outside the kitchen. I never wanted another child, she whispered to my aunt. Emma wasn't part of the plan. Those words stayed with me longer than any birthday gift ever did. My name is Emma Carter, and for 24 years, I believed I was the biggest accident my family had ever made, while my older brother Jason was celebrated for every little achievement. I was treated like someone who simply took up space. If Jason brought home a B on a test, my parents threw him a dinner celebration. When I earned straight A's, my father barely looked up from the television. Good, he would say. That's what you're supposed to do. No hugs. No smiles, nothing. Birthdays were even worse. Jason always received expensive gifts, gaming consoles, new phones, even a car when he turned 16. For my 16th birthday, my parents handed me an envelope. Inside was a $50 bill and a note that read, "Don't waste it." That was it. No cake. No party. Not even a family dinner. I smiled anyway, because I had learned something very young. Crying never changed how they treated me. By the time I graduated high school, I stopped expecting love from them. College wasn't an option. My parents said they couldn't afford tuition. 3 months later, they paid for Jason to attend one of the most expensive universities in the state. I worked during the day at a small coffee shop and cleaned office buildings at night. Sometimes I slept only 4 hours before starting another shift. Whenever I came home exhausted, my mother had only one thing to say: if you were smarter, you wouldn't have to work this hard. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stayed silent. Silence had become my safest place. One rainy evening, while wiping tables after closing, an elderly customer noticed I looked exhausted. "You work too much," he said gently. I laughed. "I don't really have another choice." He smiled. "You always have a choice. Sometimes the hardest part is believing you deserve a better life." Those words hit me differently. For the first time, someone believed I deserved more. That night, instead of scrolling through social media before bed, I opened my laptop. I searched one simple question: how can I build a business with almost no money? I spent hours watching free videos, reading articles, and taking notes. Every single night after work, I studied instead of sleeping. Digital marketing, branding, online stores, customer psychology. Everything. It wasn't glamorous. Most nights I cried from exhaustion, but every lesson gave me something. My family never had hope. I didn't tell anyone, not my parents, not Jason, not even my closest friends, because I knew one thing: if I failed, my family would laugh, and if I succeeded, they would never see it coming. The next morning, nothing had changed. I still woke up before sunrise, worked 2 exhausting jobs, and came home to a family that barely noticed I existed. But something inside me was different. For the first time in years, I had a goal that belonged to me. Every paycheck, I saved a little money. No new clothes. No vacations. No expensive coffee. Every dollar had a purpose. After nearly 6 months of learning, I finally launched my first online store. I was terrified. I refreshed the website every 5 minutes, hoping anyone would place an order. The first day, nothing. The second day, nothing. The third day, one order. I was so excited that I almost cried. Then the customer canceled it. I felt crushed. For a moment, I wanted to quit. Maybe my parents had been right all along. Maybe I really wasn't good enough. But then I remembered. Every time they called me a mistake, I refused to let those words become my future. So I kept going. I studied harder. I redesigned my website. I learned how to advertise online. I answered every customer message myself, even at 2 in the morning. Slowly, things began to change. One order became 5, 5 became 20, 20 became 50. Every notification on my phone felt like proof that I wasn't who my family believed I was. Within a year, I was earning more from my business than from both of my jobs combined. The day I quit my cleaning job, I sat in my car and cried. Not because I was sad, because for the first time in my life, I felt free. I rented a tiny apartment across town. It wasn't luxurious. The kitchen was small. The walls were plain, but it was mine. No insults. No constant reminders that I didn't belong. Just peace. My Parents didn't even ask why I moved out. A week later, Jason called. Mom says you finally realized you couldn't survive here. I smiled to myself. If that's what she wants to believe. He laughed. You'll probably be back in a month. I didn't argue. Some victories are sweeter when they're silent. Over the next 3 years, my business exploded. I hired employees, moved into a real office, expanded to customers across the country, then internationally. One morning, my accountant called with news I never imagined hearing. Emma, he said, laughing, I think you should check your account. My hands shook as I opened my banking app. I stared at the screen for several seconds. I refreshed it, then refreshed it again. The balance was still there. Over $3 million. $3 million. The little girl who had been called a mistake was officially a millionaire. I closed my eyes and remembered that frightened 7-year-old standing outside the kitchen door. If only she could see this moment. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't post pictures online. I didn't brag. I simply kept working because success had never been about proving strangers wrong. It had always been about proving that little girl she was worth something. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. It was my mother. She hadn't called me in almost 8 months. The first words out of her mouth made my heart sink. Emma, we're having a family reunion this Saturday. She paused before adding, you should come. Something in her voice felt different, almost unusually kind. I had no idea that by the end of that weekend, my family would discover the truth I had hidden for years, and nothing between us would ever be the same. I almost didn't go to the family reunion. For years, every family gathering had ended the same way, with someone making a joke at my expense. But this time felt different, not because I expected kindness, because I no longer needed their approval. Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house in a simple black sedan. It wasn't flashy. I had learned long ago that real success doesn't need to announce itself. As soon as I walked through the front door, every conversation seemed to pause. Emma, my mother said, with a smile so warm it almost felt fake. She hurried over and hugged me. I couldn't remember the last time she had hugged me. My father even stood up to shake my hand. Jason walked over with a grin. Looks like life hasn't been too hard on you, he joked. I smiled politely. I've been doing okay. For the next hour, everyone asked questions they had never cared to ask before. Where are you working now? Are you dating anyone? How's your apartment? It felt strange hearing so much interest from people who had ignored me for most of my life. Then my aunt leaned across the dinner table. So, what exactly do you do for a living? I own an online company, I replied. Jason laughed. An online company? Like selling handmade candles or something? Several relatives chuckled. Old Emma would have felt embarrassed. This version of me simply smiled. It's an e-commerce brand. So how much can that possibly make? Jason asked. I shrugged. Enough. My father folded his arms. You know, it's never too late to get a real career. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. A payment notification. My accountant had transferred another quarterly profit into my account. Without thinking, I opened the banking app to confirm the deposit. At that exact moment, my little cousin ran over. Emma, can I see your new phone? Before I could stop him, he grabbed it from my hand. The screen was still open. His eyes grew wide. Whoa, the room fell silent. What? Jason asked. My cousin looked confused. Why does Emma have over $3 million in her bank account? Every face at the table turned toward me. Jason laughed nervously. Nice joke. I'm not joking, my cousin replied. Holding up the phone, Jason took it from him. The smile disappeared from his face. Then my father looked. His hands actually started shaking. My mother covered her mouth. And no one spoke. For years, they had looked at me as if I would never amount to anything. Now they were staring at the proof that they had been wrong. Finally, my mother whispered, Emma, why didn't you tell us? I looked around the room, because the answer was simple. When I needed your support, you called me a mistake. No one interrupted. You laughed at my dreams before they even existed. You celebrated everyone except me. So I stopped trying to convince you that I mattered. Tears filled my mother's eyes. We didn't realize how much we hurt you. I nodded. I believe you. Then I added quietly. But realizing it now doesn't erase 24 years. Jason suddenly cleared his throat. Maybe Maybe we can all start over. I looked at my brother. I've already started over, just without them. I stood up, picked up my keys, and walked toward the door. Behind me, my mother called my name one last time. I turned around. I don't hate any of you, I said. Hate is heavy. I carried enough weight growing up. I smiled gently. I chose peace instead. Then I walked away, not because I wanted revenge, but because I had finally learned that the greatest success isn't having millions in the bank. It's never needing the approval of the people who made you doubt your worth. The little girl who once believed she was a mistake had become a woman who knew exactly who she was, and no amount of money could ever be more valuable than that.